All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Um, what do you want to do here? Yes, we are going to talk about select in Riverpod. It's a great feature that is built in Riverpod that I personally have not used that much, and I regret it because there's actually some great values in it. And I'm going to show you how to use it and why it's great. And we're going to actually refactor something to sort of to make this make more sense. So right now we have a locale provider, right? And this is a provider that is only cares about one thing. It just cares about what language we are using. Um, and I thought about doing it that way because I was like, okay, this is something that's really high up in the build tree, right? We have in our main.dart, we're basically watching ref.watch, the locale settings provider. And if we instead made a user provider, and had multiple settings in there, like language, theme, et cetera, you name it, it would be rebuilding when any of that stuff changes, and we don't really want that. It only cares about this. And that's where the select is going to come in and make this make more sense. But before I get to that, let's actually do a major refactor here. So right now we're going to go into our features, and this is kind of part of the user, but users kind of also like other users. It's also kind of auth related. We're just going to make maybe this is also in core. We're going to make a provider here called user preferences provider.dart. And we're going to kind of use this as a bit of a base here to, as a reference for now. So let's import some things. I'm just going to import all these things, so we'll probably end up needing them all. And we're going to have this, but this will be called user preferences provider. And I will do our @Riverpod. So instead of calling this locale settings, we're going to call this user preferences and sys, and it's going to extend basically the same thing with this thing before it. And I did this totally wrong. This should be on a new line. It should be a class. And we're going to do keep alive true because we want this to just stay alive. Okay. Then on here, we're going to have a build function as usual. Right now, we'll just make it return dynamic just to get this working. We're going to have an override. And we're just going to return a random string, an empty string right now. Okay, cool. So let's save that file. Let us run our generator. I'm going to run it with watch so that we can make changes quicker. Again, with watch, first time will still be slow. It's basically doing a normal build, but then subsequent builds will be much, much quicker. So we're seeing all these errors now, and it's because it's rebuilding a bunch of our code. And every time I do this, I pray to the Dart gods, like let's get macros stable. Let's get macros stable so that stuff can be quicker. Okay, so now that's great. What we're going to make now is also a model. And we're going to call this user preferences. We'll call it actually user preferences state. I can still call it user preferences.dart. And here, let's just make a simple model, user preferences, and I'm going to call this user preferences state, like that. And this is what's going to get returned from here instead of dynamic. So let's import that. All right. So let's look at our locale provider again, because the idea is we're going to put locale is just going to be one property within here. So let's actually make that final locale. And we'll just call it locale. And that's good. And then we need to, of course, have our constructor on this. So let's just have a const constructor required this.locale. So we're going to refactor this just thinking about locale at first, and then we're going to add some more things to it. But we'll just do it in that order. This I'm just going to move to this same file for now. We might move it somewhere else in a bit. And then, actually, doesn't matter because we're going to be deleting this file at the end of the day. But now here, what we want to return is obviously an instance of this, and we have to pass in locale. So let's see how we did that in our other function, in our locale provider. So what did we do? In our build function, we did all this stuff. What I'm going to do is take all this same code, and we're actually going to just make something called a init language, or init locale. And let's actually move our saved save preferred locale. We'll move this here. So just kind of like migrating stuff over piece by piece. Why is that throwing an error? Because I forgot this guy. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we have that. We're doing that. The only difference is in this init locale, we actually want to return out the locale. Because what do we do over here? We return locale from subtags. Yeah. Oh, I missed this part of the code. We also want to have this after here. And yeah, we just want to actually return this from here. Okay. And then what we want to do is basically go final initial locale, or just call it locale, is going to be equal to init locale. And let's actually make this a private function just so we don't accidentally try and call it outside. It should only be called from here. And this will, return, it's returning dynamic, but really we want to be returning a locale here. And now we can just pass in locale, locale. Okay, that's good. Let's save that. Let us now get rid of our locale provider. Late error, yeah, okay, that's fine. We're just going to not worry about that. We're going to, where's our locale provider? Reveal and Explorer view. Oh, I guess, you know what? We probably, is this used at all? Before I delete this file, I'm just going to move this here. It might get moved somewhere else in a bit, but I just don't want to lose it because we are just going to delete our locale provider now. So I'm going to delete this and the generated file that comes with it and move to trash. And we're getting some lovely things. And I think it's because I have this builder, still going. Let's just continue our debugger, do a green arrow refresh. Okay, cool. Not sure why we still have the debugger going, but because there's errors still. So now we're having errors because it's like, it wants to use a locale setting provider. Let's see all the errors that are happening. There's a bunch, right? So what do we need to do? It's probably one thing I lost when I deleted that file. Let me just open up my trash and go here. I think we missed one thing. It should be like a setter. Yeah, set language code. So let's actually put this in our, way too many things open right now. State equals language. Okay, so now we have our set language code in here. And that's not what we want to do anymore, right? We want to actually make a new version of this. We can't just pass language to our state because our state is of type user preferences. So let's go to our user preferences, and what we need to do now is make a copy with. So let's just make a, we have something that returns a new version of our user preferences state. We'll call it copy with, and it's going to allow us to pass in optionally a locale. And what we want to return is our user preferences state. And we're going to use the locale that's passed into here, but if it is null, we fall back to our this.locale, which is whatever locale is currently on the model. So we're making like a new instance of the model, which is what we should be doing. Now what we can do is instead of setting this locale language, okay, so we would just do state.copyWith and basically pass in that locale, which we called language here, but let's just actually rename this to locale. And we can also rename this to maybe set locale. We have this here. Okay. Locale provider, you're gone. All right, so we have some errors. Let's work through them. Let's start with them. Let's start with the settings screen. So first of all, yeah, that file doesn't exist anymore. Now we want to use our user settings, user preferences provider locale. We want to watch our user preferences provider locale, .toLanguage code. So instead of talking to this directly, we're talking to the locale within it. And then our value is going to be this .locale. And ref.read, we want to use this. And I think we just renamed it to set locale. Yeah. Okay, so we just refactored that now to work that way. Then in our main.dart, we got to get rid of this. And down here, we are actually going to watch our ref.watch locale, user preferences provider.locale. Okay, great. So we've kind of refactored this now. I'm going to save everything, make sure stuff's still working. Go here, go to my settings, do this, Espanol. Yep, everything's working from the state point of view, which is all we really touched. Now here's the problem, and I mentioned earlier, it's like we're watching our preferences provider. If we had any other types of preferences, which we are going to add very soon, it would be rebuilding no matter what. And this is where the select comes in. So we can actually go ref.watch, and then after this, we can actually go .select. And this gives us a selector function, which essentially, I just use the word usually v or value. And value is an instance of whatever this state is. And we can say all we really care about is value.locale. Then we actually get rid of this here because this will actually only return the locale. So just to kind of see this, let's make this its own value just for a minute. Final v equals this. And you'll see of type value is not the user's preferences, it's the locale because we're doing the select on it. So this has two bonuses. One, it's kind of cleaner because we're not doing a watch and then around it doing locale. Secondly, this will only rebuild if specifically the locale changes. And that's what we want. So there, that's all that there. And that's basically what I wanted to get to in this video is how we can use select, because this is now more optimized, especially if we had like 1,000 user preferences or something, or different things. We, in this case, only care if the locale changes, not anything. Similarly, in our settings screen, we're doing something similar. We're watching that. So we can do, let's just get rid of this. And we'll see there's an error because it's like, oh, this is of type user preferences, not of locale. So we can go .select and just use like v or whatever you want here. It doesn't really matter. And we can do v.locale. And now similarly, that will only rebuild if that specific thing changes and is just cleaner and nice. So that's the select method that you can do on ref.watch. You can, of course, do it on ref.read as well. It's just I don't think there's like a reason to do that because if you're just reading a value, it's not really like listening for and doing a rebuild anyways. Maybe there's a real reason. If there is, throw it in the comments. But definitely for watch, this is a great thing when you only care about something changing, something specific within your state. So yeah, that's great. So let's add, just to make this make more sense, it's like, why did we do that? My intention here is in user preferences, we're also going to have something maybe called, and we'll just use a string for now. We'll just call it like theme code because we haven't made our theme stuff yet. But let's also require that to be passed in. Oops, I'm in the wrong thing completely. User preferences. Wait, what even uses this? Supported languages. I don't think this code's being used anywhere. We're just going to get rid of it in both places. Save. Okay, that was just code. I guess we were writing it and decided not to use it. I forget. But anyways, long story short, what we might want in here is something called like theme name. Let's just call it theme name. We'll probably refactor this when we actually do theming soon, but require this .theme name. And now in our copy with, we're also going to allow a nullable string to come in. We'll just call it theme name. And similarly, we'll set theme name to the theme name we're passing in, falling back to the original one. Just a basic copy with. And then over here, we're having this error because we actually have to pass in a theme name. So let's just make, for now, like a, let's call it theme name equals, let's just call it light. And we can, for now, make this a const. This will, of course, change when we're relying on the device settings and stuff and when we actually implement this. But none of this is doing anything yet. So we'll use our theme name here. And then we'll probably also want to have a, similar to this, a void set theme name or just set theme. We'll have a string called theme name. And we just use state equals state.copy with theme name. And all that is good. Cool. I just want to make a couple refactors to this. So we're calling this in a couple places, which makes sense. But I feel like, honestly, I feel like this is just going to be cleaner. I know we're going to be duplicating ourselves, but it's just like having this whole method just to do this one thing that now we sort of have a type safe way of doing it, I think is unnecessary. So we're actually just going to copy the part we care about. And we don't really have to await that. It'll still run, it just won't await, and it doesn't really matter because we're fine. And we'll do that there. So I'm just going to run that stuff there because what I kind of want to do is also take our storage provider and set something, and we're going to go into here now. And, you know, we might want people to remember the theme, right? And this kind of goes back to what we were doing in a recent video. We'll just call it theme. That way here we can go .theme key, and we'll pass in theme name. So now we can actually store that. And similar up here, we can also have a init theme. So string, we'll just call it init theme. And basically we'll have something called saved theme equals this, and we'll use our theme key, which this is now going to be a nullable string. So we can check if saved theme does not equal null, which I made a typo here. What we would do is, what do we do if it's not null? Yeah, I mean, we're just going to return saved theme. Otherwise, we're just going to return like our default theme, which we'll call light. There'll be some to-dos here. In fact, I'll make it to-do check device settings. Maybe we'll get into this in the next video. That way up here, we can actually use our init theme, which returns this. Methods cannot use because it's a constant. Change that there. There you go. So now we have like at least the boilerplate ready. We'll check device settings before returning this, but this will allow us to store this stuff. And now this maybe makes a bit more sense why we needed to convert this to actually a model. Where's the model itself? This right here, user preference state. We want to convert to this because we want to store multiple things in here, and we still have, the value of using the select, which is the main topic of this video, to only watch for changes when something specific changes. So when we get to the theme stuff, we'll do a select on theme name when we're setting our theme settings, and it will only rebuild if the theme changes instead of locale. That's the idea. That's what we're doing. Sweet. Thanks for watching this one, and see you guys in the next.